A NASA spacecraft just flew within 2,800 miles of Mars, stole a free boost of speed from the planet's gravity, and kept going toward an asteroid that some headlines have priced at $10,000 quadrillion. The spacecraft is named Psyche, launched toward an asteroid of the same name, a chunk of rock and metal orbiting between Mars and Jupiter that some scientists believe is the exposed metal core of a planet that never finished forming. On May 15, 2026, Psyche used Mars as a gravity assist slingshot, and NASA has now released the flyby footage, a time-lapse of the planet's south polar ice cap and the Huygens crater sliding past the cameras, along with confirmation that the spacecraft's science instruments passed their first real test in deep space. Psyche will not actually reach the asteroid until 2029. So what did this maneuver really accomplish? And does that eye-popping dollar figure mean anything at all? Let us sort the signal from the noise. A gravity assist is not a trick. It is basic physics that space agencies have used since the 1970s to save fuel on long journeys. As Psyche passed close to Mars, it briefly fell into the planet's gravity well, picked up some of the planet's own orbital momentum, and left faster and on a slightly different path than it arrived. All without burning a single extra ounce of propellant. Engineers call it a free ride. And it is exactly why missions to the outer solar system almost always route through a planet's backyard first during the 7-week approach and flyby. Mission scientists pointed Psyche's instruments at Mars specifically to calibrate them in a real planetary environment before the spacecraft ever reaches its actual target, the gamma-ray and neutron spectrometer, which will eventually read the chemical makeup of the asteroid's surface, got its first live workout. The multispectral imager captured detailed views of wind-blown craters in the enormous double-ringed Huygens crater. None of this was about Mars itself. Mars was a rehearsal stage. Every other asteroid or comet a spacecraft has ever visited up close, Bennu, Yugu, Itoqua, Comet 67P, has been made mostly of rock, ice, or a rubble-strewn mix of both. 16 Psyche is different, or at least that is the working hypothesis. Radar and light reflection studies from Earth suggest the asteroid, about 140 miles across, is unusually dense and metal-rich, which has led many scientists to a striking idea that Psyche might be the exposed iron core of a small planet that started forming in the solar system's first few million years and then had its rocky outer layers stripped away by ancient collisions. If that is true, it would be the only known place in the solar system where humans can study planetary core material directly, without drilling thousands of miles into a living planet, which is physically impossible with any current technology, including on Earth. That is the actual scientific prize here. Not a treasure hunt. A rare chance to see what the inside of a planet looks like. Here is where the headlines get carried away. The $10,000 quadrillion figure traces back to a rough back-of-envelope calculation from the 2010s, which multiplied Psyche's estimated iron and nickel content by current market prices for those metals on Earth. It went viral because it is an almost incomprehensibly large number, and outlets have recycled it in nearly every Psyche mission story since. This week's coverage included: the math has two basic problems. First, nobody has confirmed Psyche is actually solid metal. A 2021 study modeling its density found it could be closer to a loose rubble pile. Only around 82% metal mixed with lower density rock, which would cut that valuation dramatically. Second, and more importantly, the number assumes you could ship that metal to Earth and sell it at today's prices, when in reality flooding global markets with that much iron nickel, and gold would collapse those prices instantly. The metals would become nearly worthless the moment enough of them arrived. The number is not a lie. It is just economically meaningless. The honest limitation is that nobody actually knows what Psyche is made of yet. And will not know for certain until the spacecraft arrives in 2029. Every claim about a metal core, a stripped planet, or a rubble pile is built on remote measurements, radar reflectivity, density estimates from its gravitational pull, and computer models that fit the data in more than one way. Scientists genuinely disagree with each other about which model is closest to reality. And that disagreement will not resolve until Psyche gets close enough to map the surface and measure its composition directly. It is entirely possible the mission arrives and finds something closer to an ordinary rocky asteroid with some embedded metal, which would still be scientifically valuable, just far less dramatic than the exposed planetary core story currently driving headlines. This flyby also tested instruments. It did not test them against a metal asteroid. Mars is rock and ice. So even the calibration data has limits on what it can tell scientists about how those same instruments will behave near Psyche's actual surface. 3 more years of uncertainty remain before any of this gets confirmed. Quick recap. NASA's Psyche spacecraft used a gravity assist from Mars in May 2026 to save fuel and speed toward Asteroid 16 Psyche, a metal-rich object some scientists think is the exposed core of a failed planet, with arrival set for 2029. So, signal or noise? Split verdict. The mission itself, the engineering, the gravity assist maneuver, the instrument testing, the genuine scientific question about planetary cause. Is real signal a well-run space mission chasing a legitimately unique target? The $10,000 quadrillion price tag that keeps attaching itself to every headline about it is noise. A decade-old back-of-envelope number that ignores basic economics and outruns what anyone actually knows about the asteroid's composition. The interesting story here was never the price. It is the chance to see something no human has ever directly examined. A piece of what might be a planet's inside. That answer arrives in 2029. Not this week. Subscribe for the space missions worth actually tracking. Minus the headline inflation. Signal from the noise. Every week.